So everyone knows Rick Norris.
I'd like to thank you all for having us back again, and the intent tonight is to bring you up to speed on where we are with the buildings. We've worked with the superintendent, his teams on the programs, and you'll see those. So there, the building itself is pretty much fixed. Some of the finishings still may need a little bit of work. We're still working on the budget to get that in line, which you always are on these projects. Schedule-wise, we're looking at December, early to mid-December to go out to bid, start construction in April, March or April next year, and then finish in June
March and
2021.
April of this April.
2020, and finish the schools in 2021.
Yeah. April of this year is 2020, right?
Yeah, well, kind of.
5 months.
Well,
It's 5 months.
the school year,
Right,
not this
right.
calendar
The
year. I go
school
with
year,
calendar
yeah.
years.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so this next
So we're gonna
March.
begin construction, hopefully,
Next March, or April,
yeah,
2020.
2020.
Mother
right?
Nature, give us a
Everything
good
is going
winter.
so fast,
Bye.
because 2020 was so far away, right?
Yeah.
And here it is.
Wait, it did
So-
sound like that a long time ago, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. So after Joe does his presentation, I'll bring you up to date on the middle school condition, where we are with that, and what that schedule is. So I'll let Joe Banks from Perkins Eastman here run through his slideshow. Please feel free to ask questions, and I'm sure you'll have some, right, Joe?
Absolutely, yeah, so thank you. I'm Joe Banks, I'm an architect at Perkins Eastman, and I'm the project manager for both of these elementary school projects. And it's good to see you all again. I just wanted to give you sort of an overview of where the elementary schools are at currently. As Rick said, we're still in the process of cinching up the construction documents, so, by all means, when we give you these renderings, don't think that the building is absolutely gonna be that shade of X, Y, or Z. We're still working on that. But certainly if you have questions, particularly as they pertain to curriculum or the instructional spaces, please let me know. We'll take those comments to heart. So we wanted to start kind of from the outside in and orient you first to the site, how all of these sites are going to be working with the schools. And the first one we're doing is Cutler. So as you recall, the existing school is on this side of the property. And in order to get the timing right and everything and so forth, we're putting the new building on this side. The access for the buses, as you can see, is going to be in this circle around here. That'll be drop off and pick up for the buses. And for drop off and pick up for parents, we've got this big long aisle back here where cars can kind of stack and collect folks and so on and so forth. In addition to that, we've got the pre-K parking lot here. Those are for the really little kids. We have a separate parking lot for those folks, and then they would have their own separate entrance over on this side, on that little building. Couple other things to orient you to the site. This is kind of the service area of the building. This is where trucks will be coming up to drop off supplies. It's where, dumpsters will be unloaded. It's kind of the not so nice end of the building, but the one that makes everything run. Just a little bit down from there, you're gonna see 1, 2, 3 playground areas. That's for the variety of ranges in the elementary school. We need to have 3 playgrounds for that. And then, of course, we have sort of the baseball and multi-purpose field that are just down.
And that's in existence right now?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep, question?
Yes.
Where you have the multi-purpose field and the baseball field, currently that is, the baseball fields are where the building is, and you have 2 baseball fields. You have a T-ball, Little League, like little guys, field, and then you have Babe Ruth and Froshmore, the freshman sophomore team from the high school field. So you're only putting 1 field there, but is that gonna be, it's gonna be too big for the little dudes?
What they did is we moved the softball field, which is the size of that field, over to the middle school. So the
Well, those
softball
are the
field,
Mystic Little League,
the softball
fields.
field is in the middle
so
school.
there's not gonna be a Mystic Little League field in Groton?
It's at the middle school.
At the middle school.
It's in the middle
Mystic
school.
Little League
Yeah.
is, that's
Yeah.
Groton, they can't play there. The
Why
zip
not?
code won't let them, it has to do with, I don't know the bylaws exactly. This is as far as they can go into Groton. So all our fields will now, if you live in the 06355 zip code, your kids are gonna have to
Well,
play over to Stonington.
Maybe they could do something at Butler.
So I know that this is a hot button issue, and I do know that this is part of the transition. I believe that Park and Rec is gonna be working on fields and stuff like that,
Okay.
because I know that
One
that
more
was.
field question. You're losing the tennis courts, that's where my kids learn to ride their bikes.
We're
Most of the
building-
kids in the area, because it's a very hilly area,
I understand, it's an elementary school.
and now it's an elementary school, and my kids also play tennis down there.
Right.
We have to go by what we're allowed by the state to build for
But we're
elementary school.
tearing stuff
And
out, we
what-
should put back.
We're not gonna be reimbursed for it. If we have money at the end of the project, we can certainly look at those things, but right now, they can't be part of the plan because of the state reimbursement requirements or eligibility for reimbursement.
But I would love for you to champion that cause with making
Park
sure
and Rec.
that Park and Rec,
Yep.
because they're the ones that also have a huge stake in that.
Because it's like
They're the
ridiculous
ones,
to,
they're the ones that have the huge stake in that as well.
you know, it's just a lot to take. Butler's far away. My kids could hop, skip and a jump in there in the Cutler parking lot.
Yep.
And so are all of Bel Air, like, they're really, most of that neighborhood, Judson, they all feed into what this is going to be, and that's where they all have learned to ride their bikes, they've all played tennis there. They muck about, nice skate on the pond that you can't see in that picture. I just kind of concerned what we're going to be affecting and losing in baby and bathwater again. I know, I tried very hard not to do that.
All right, so I'm going to move on. Thank you.
I figured.
I hear you.
Question about curriculum.
Yep.
Mine is, since there are going to be at least 604 students at this school, I was hoping that the design would be able to do pre-K through 1 in one section of the school, another section 2, 3, primary, and then 4, 5, so that they're separated, and that the pre-K through 1 would have access to the playgrounds from their.
Why don't you let Joe go through his presentation, he'll show
But
you.
is
that
it like
sep-
that?
Yeah,
he'll
we'll show you in a
separation.
little bit later.
That really is
Yeah.
very important, that those pre-K kids can go out those doors to a playground. I'm not seeing that right there, but maybe they're,
That's the
Yeah,
windows.
we'll show you later, it's also state code, you know, kids at that age have to be on grade, so you'll see how we take
Okay.
care of that.
and is it 2 floors?
It's actually 3 floors on the classroom wing, but maybe
Can we
kind of
just-
spin through this and.
Can we have people write down their questions, and so that, because I think each slide's gonna progress on each other, so if you guys could just write down your questions, and then we'll try to have them, your question will either be made sense of, or, it's a great question and they haven't thought about it. How's that for a framing?
Perfect.
Right. So here's sort of a 3-dimension of how that looks. Again, just to orient you on the site, this is the new building, and this is how it may look. So what you have is you've got that pre-K entry that we were talking about over here. So that's the parking lot here, and this is the main front to the building. This is the main entryway. And so what we typically do with elementary schools is you want to get kind of all the big boxes in one area. Those are the more public spaces, the spaces that may be used for community use or that sort of thing. So what you're seeing here, you have the administration right at the front area, which is exactly where you want eyes on that whole area, security and so forth. You also have nurse and other administrative functions in that area. The next thing that you'll see is the media center, the gymnasium, and the cafeteria, in addition to some of the boiler rooms and the back of house spaces. When we get to the plans, I'll show those in a little more detail, but I just wanted to orient you to the overall mass of the building so that you kind of understand how it's organized as a whole. This is another view of that. Again, you have your 3-story classroom wing over here, big box spaces here, and that's that service entrance that I was talking about a little bit earlier. One more view, just for good measure. And this is kind of the rendering of how that front entryway may look. Again, administration is here, you have a canopy there, and then access from the parking lot over here, both for the buses and for the kids that are being dropped off on the side there. This is a look if you were walking in from the pre-K area. So the pre-K has their own entrance here. The main entrance again is all the way over here, so those have some separation in terms of your concern about mixing of younger and older kids. And then this is the 3-story classroom block. This is a view in that courtyard. You remember earlier that the two buildings are a little bit held off from one another. This is the courtyard, and you can see the media center here. It kind of looks out into the courtyard, as well as the area that's that's the transition between those two wings of the building. We're going to get into the plans for both of those later, but now I'm going to do the same, walk you through exactly the same thing on the west side, starting with the site. So again, on the west side, it's exactly the opposite. The existing building's over here, so we're building here. On the west side, one of the things that you have to keep in mind is there's about a 30-foot drop from here all the way back to here. So what that meant was, even though the building is organized in a similar way, it has to sit slightly differently on the site. So even though the buildings are very similar in terms of the way they're organized, they're kind of sisters, they're not twins. So just keep that in mind as we look at this. Again, the drop-off for the parents is right along the road. We have a nice couple of curb cuts there. The service entry is right here, so we've got that right next to the kitchen, and the other space is here. And the main entry is right here. So it's very easy for drop-off and pick-up here, as well as for the bus drop-off and pick-up here. So we've allowed this long loop through the parking lot for the buses here. We have a ton of room in between these spaces in case emergency vehicles have to come in. And we've got plenty of parking here. As you move down the hill, these are the play spaces. So these are accessible directly from the building. You go out to these, and we've got our 3 play spaces, in addition to a little hardscape area there. Moving down the hill, so again, we want to locate those pre-K and those younger kids in an area where drop-off and pickup is a little more separated from the other folks. So what we've done is to provide a road back here, and these are the spaces for the pre-K drop-off. They have their own entrance here, and when I go to the 3-dimensional view, I think that'll make a little more sense of how this works. In addition to that, at the request of the fire department, we've added this turnaround loop here. That means that the fire equipment can get to pretty much every corner of the building as is necessary. Back here, we've got the existing field, and that is going to be rehabilitated and actually going to be raised about 4 feet with fill from the rest of the site. How that plays out, again, this is Brandegee Road here. This is the main entry here. It's the administration and nurse, the media center, gymnasium, and cafeteria. This is the 3-story classroom wing here. So again, a very similar arrangement to Cutler, but because the grade, it works a little differently. This is the ground level, if you will. And you go directly across this little bridge here, and you enter what is the 2nd story of the building on this level. Now what that means is that you can actually put the pre-K and K and first graders on either floor of those buildings, and of this building rather, and they're able to access the outside appropriately from either of those. But here is the pre-K entry, so that was the area that I was talking about before. So again, they have their own separate entry into that lower level of the building there. Just so that you know, it's the lower level of the building, but there's still tons and tons of daylight on this. It's essentially ground level on this side. So this may be where there might be some queuing of cars there as well, but you can really see kind of how this whole thing plays out. This is a tremendous slope down to here. We've got retaining walls, and we've got another playground down here for the pre-K kids. One more view, just for good measure. You see the courtyard here as well. And then this is that entry that we're talking about. Again, you'll see a lot of the same design elements for each school. They're rendered somewhat differently. We have different palette of colors both for the interior and exterior of both schools. This is again the view that you might see at the pre-K. That's the entrance there. This is the play area for the pre-K. And this is the main portion of the building, including the drop-off and pick-up up there. This again is looking at the courtyard. This is that kind of bridge between the buildings, between the classroom building over here and the administrative block over here. And with that, I'm gonna dig into the floor plans a little bit.
Can you show me where the elevators are?
Sure. Yep. Elevator room is right here. So the only wing of the building, I should say, that needs the elevator is that 3-story.
Right, I realize that.
Yep. Yep.
So that if a child is up on that 3rd floor and needs to go to the nurse, they have to walk down, if they're on that end, come down, go down the elevator, come across the bridge, and then go into where the nurse's room is, or the
Well,
office.
I don't think
Every
it's
other
going
child.
alone.
Yep.
It's a long walk.
That's right. And so this is Cutler. This is where we have all the younger kids on the ground floor. And you'll see the pre-K, K, and 1st grade are all accommodated on that 1st floor. Again, for code reasons and just good design, we want them to kids there. Yep.
What teachers' bathrooms?
Teachers' bathrooms are sort of scattered throughout, but we've got some here and here.
Okay. Just wanna make sure, especially on the lower level, where the kids don't get the bathroom off, they can have a quick access point.
One of the things I want to point out in this one is what we're calling the commons area. So you'll see geometry-wise, this and this are at 90-degree angles, and this is kinked a little bit. The reason for that is to widen this out a little bit. You know, it's not a very grand gesture, but it's a little something to give that space a little more breathing room. That might be a gathering space for, you know, tours or for orientations or that sort of thing, as well as kids who might be waiting for a drop-off and pickup. A couple of other things to point out on Cutler is that the holding spaces, if you will, the spaces where kids would be waiting either before or after school, a number of these spaces could work for that. Both the gymnasium, the cafeteria, or the media center might be spaces that, again, you have very clear access to the front, very clear visibility on those areas. When we go up a floor, you begin to see the rest of the program. The 2nd grade ABA program that was being talked about a little bit before. We have special ed. We also have art and faculty dining on the 2nd floor. You'll see staircases here. Everything in red is sort of circulation, so that kind of helps you read the plan a little bit. And on the 3rd floor, we have the rest of the classrooms, and it's pretty straightforward. We wanted to give you kind of a sense of the flavor of some of these spaces as we're going through. It's one thing to look at a plan, and it's another thing to kind of imagine, you know, bodies in there, kids, teachers, faculty, that kind of stuff. So this is that main lobby area where we're talking about. This would be the doors that go out to the play area and so forth outside. Be standing here and looking at that. This is the media center and administration there to the left. Now this is also Cutler, but the design and the configuration of the spaces will be pretty similar on the west side as well. This is another view. This is kind of looking through to that bridge that goes between the buildings. And this is area for display, artwork, etc. These little windows are windows into the gymnasium itself. So it's a way of kind of bringing some interest and showing that there's activity in those areas, as well as kind of livening the space up a little bit instead of leaving a concrete wall. Oh, just to go back, I'm sure you guys are going to ask what these things are. So these are acoustic baffles, and they're there for a couple of reasons. One is an aesthetic, so that we can have this open high ceiling, but also so that, you know, it doesn't feel so high. But by far the more important reason is so that we can use these to absorb sound. In areas like this, even in the current 2 middle schools, when you walk in, it's very loud. As soon as anybody's passing, there's a lot of noise in there, and we think it's just good design to help kind of tamp that down and make it a little calmer. This is a view of what the gymnasium may look like. Again, what we've got is we've got a lot of natural light coming in up top. We find that generally speaking that really helps in terms of energy bills and everything else like that, keeps down on the light. Standard wood court, etc. And this, even though this is an elementary school, these are middle school sized courts, so we're thinking of community use and so forth.
I'm interested, you have kids who can dunk.
I actually liked the girl that was, oh, that she was dunking, okay.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
clear like that.
That's
I
a
wish I could
kindergartner,
do
by
that.
the way.
At any time.
Especially at elementary.
Yeah,
Breathe up big and pre-K. He is invisible though.
yeah, that's true. Maybe that helps with the light test. This is what we call kind of a shoebox view of the media center. We find that this helps everybody sort of visualize things. I want to emphasize that all the furnishings and everything, that will be finalized kind of in the next phase of things, you know, after construction has started. But we want to put furniture in there so you get an idea of what the space is going to be like. You see a lot of furniture that is movable, that's on wheels. I think that's a good idea, just so you can reconfigure the space pretty easily. And we feel like light and a view to the outside is pretty important. We have this, what we're calling a story area here, and that's going to look out in both schools under that courtyard. So you'll see, you know, sort of the natural surroundings in those areas.
Here's a footnote, Joe, for the board. When we did the furniture with middle school, we brought in the media specialists, and we brought in the science teachers for the lab. So there's been really terrific collaboration among the staff and the architects.
And that's when it really gets real, right? When the furniture starts going into devices and you start seeing that.
When you do our two newest elementary schools, we have a lot of wasted space in our library with this upper thing there, the shingles. The shingles, this isn't anything like that.
Nothing like that there. We did learn some lessons the second time.
And the classrooms are rectangular or?
Yep.
Yeah,
No
we
more
can show you a
elephants,
sample.
no more
So once again, if we could save the questions for the end, that would be helpful.
Sure, yeah.
I just want to know if they're gonna put blinds there.
So this is another view of the media center, again, a little bit lower down. We do have these baffles that sort of come into some of the space. And this is what you might see in a typical grade 1 through 5 classroom. Again, we're on the order of around 800 square feet per regular classroom. There is a 5th grade science classroom that's a little bit bigger than that. The art classrooms are bigger than that, just because they've got to accommodate, you know, a wider range of activities. But again, typically you'll have an exterior wall with light and with sunshades as necessary to sort of mitigate the glare and distraction. You have a teaching wall with a projector similar to this one, a whiteboard, as well as other things on this side. And you have some teacher millwork for storage. There's a sink in every classroom as well. And in the lower level classrooms, we also have bathrooms that are associated with those. So you know that's a need. Here's another view of that. Don't be fooled by how narrow this is. This is a parallax that's just created by the rendering program that we have.
So they really have those whiteboards all the way around the room, don't they?
Yeah, that's
On
the
both
idea.
sides. So that's really
So
helpful.
that every surface is a
Yeah.
teaching surface.
Yeah.
We like
That's
to
great.
incorporate that throughout the whole building.
Are there lockers? Where do the children hang their coats?
Now, I'll go back
If
to
you
the
could hold
plans
the
on
questions
those
till the end,
and see that.
that would be great.
This is what we're calling a commons area. When we go back to the plans, as we will in a second, you'll see that there are a couple areas midway through the classroom block. You know, classroom blocks can be very repetitive, those hallways can get really long, especially for little kids. And so what we like to do is we like to make a little node in the middle of that, where you may have, you know, a whiteboard, you might have a bench, it's kind of a little bit of an expansion space. If the teacher wants to take a small group out there, then you have an instructional space that you can utilize there as well. Again, I'll show you where that is in the plan. It may not make a whole lot of sense in this rendering. Another view of the media center. This is sort of the cafeteria and performance space. Again, it's very similar between the two schools, although the configuration is a little different. So you've got access to the outside through these, both visually and bodily access. You can exit those spaces. Servery and kitchen is over here, and you've got sort of the main cafeteria space here. In addition to that, you have sort of a performance area. Now, I want to point out this isn't a raised platform performance area, which you might see. This is flat. So what that enables you to do is this can operate as a regular classroom pretty much the rest, any time that it needs to. And it's got an acoustical partition, which is a very expensive thing, but we think that it's a worthwhile thing in this, that can sort of go across this. So this can be used as a separate music classroom anytime, even if there's stuff going on in the cafeteria. But during the times when you have a performance that needs to be accommodated there, or a lecture or something, this door can open, you've got a screen that can come down here, and you've got everything that you need for a performance in terms of curtains, in terms of baffles, lighting equipment, that kind of stuff. This is another view sort of back towards the servery. So again, you got a couple doors at the servery where folks are circulating here. You've got views to the outside, and then this is the corridor that you would access the cafeteria from. We wanted to show you the administrative suite, just so you have a sense as to how the progression of everything goes. So we've got the secure vestibule. This is West Side, actually. So you have the secure vestibule, and the way that folks would get in, if it's not regular school hours and the doors aren't completely open, what you have to do is you've got to check in here in the reception in order to get into the building. Then, if you're released, then you can come back out through here. We've got conference center, we've got reception, we've got the principal and associate principal, we've got toilets and storage and so forth. Here we have faculty dining in West Side that's right on the ground floor, as well as sort of the nurse suite and the school-based health clinic that's there. This is one view of the administrative suite on the west side. Again, it's just a small reception area, and the bulk of the administrative area is behind there. West side floor plans. Again, you're going to see very similar organization to the other one. We've got the big box spaces here. On this one, we have art and choral and instrumental music on this floor. This is the administrative area that I just showed you in the media center, and this is the classroom wing. Now I think, yeah, here we go. So that's that commons area that I showed you a little bit about. So kind of midway in the corridor, we want to be able to open that up a little bit, you know, have a little nicer lighting and give some relief to this long corridor. The question came earlier about the lockers. So for the older kids, we have the lockers in the hall, as you might, you know, in a middle school or an elementary school. But down below, those are cubbies that are actually within the classrooms themselves. That seems to be easier to manage for the lower grades. This is also the pre-K entry here. And so you've got kind of a little vestibule reception area there as well for the smaller kids. We've got the boiler room. Keep in mind, this is the slope. This is the 30-foot slope that comes down here. So these areas here don't have any windows. They're kind of backed up to a retaining wall. But as you move this way, the slope gets lower and lower. And so these are actually able to have regular windows just like everybody else.
What is in that gray area that doesn't have windows?
This is boiler room and electric room.
So it's just nothing that a child would be in.
That's exactly right, yeah. And then this, on west side, this is what would be the second story from the street, but the third story on this classroom wing overall. And those are the oldest kids there. Again, very similar program between the two buildings. So with that, I'll open it up to questions. You can see kind of the mirror image or the sister schools next to one another.
Rick, thank you very much for coming and spending some time with us.
Yep.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was very helpful. Thank you.